Normally, I wouldn't call out a sulfurous, stinky place as a positive feature, but in this case, yeah, I think you're going to want to check this place out. See all that flat ground? Used to be a volcano. Yeah, a big one, located in New Mexico's Jemez Mountains. It's also not a well-known place, now called the Valles Caldera National Preserve. And there's some fantastic hiking there. Phew! Smell that sulfur. This particular trip, called the Sulfur and Alamo Canyons Loop, starts at this locked gate in what feels like a really remote place. As always, directions to the trailhead are in the description. The wide road begins climbing almost immediately, but it's an easy incline. However, at an altitude of more than 8,000 feet, I do feel a little wheezier than usual. It's only going to get higher, topping out at 9,400 feet. After about a half mile, we come to this former sulfur mining area, once a private inholding before it became part of the preserve. It's also where the first exploratory geothermal wells were drilled. The idea was to make electricity by pumping water down and producing steam from the heated rocks below, which would then turn turbines. Apparently, it was a pretty good idea. Yeah, but not for here. Much more apparent are the volcanic fumaroles puffing away a sulfuric steam. My recommendation is to not spend a lot of time here breathing in the fumes. They can irritate the respiratory tract, throat, and nose. Just the same with the temperature hovering today around 32 degrees. It is an impressive sight, but don't take a deep breath. The road continues its easy-going ascent, passing more old structures from the sulfur mine days, and some holdovers from when this was once cattle grazing country. Fortunately, the sulfur smell disappears after a few minutes, and I leave the evidence of the past volcanic activity behind, at least for a few feet. These lava formations seem to spring out of the pines and fir trees as if the flow reached its zenith right here, and then sputtered. One note of caution that it's always a good idea to end the hike in the early afternoon to avoid any late-day thunderstorms, especially in the summer. I hit the Alamo Canyon Trail Junction, or 1.7 miles into the hike. Now, for the sake of simplified route finding, I'm going to go straight or the clockwise direction of the loop that I'm now on. Now, if I was hesitant about some vague trail that I've got coming up, I could go to the right to 3 pools and call it a day, turn around, go back to the trailhead. A shorter hike to be sure, but less chance of getting lost. I'm feeling brave. About 2 miles into the hike, I pass this marshy area and head into a narrow valley. Eventually, it opens up into a meadow, and reaches another junction where I head right to continue on the loop. The split is marked by a cable gate and a post. The backhoe probably isn't a dependable landmark. From here, the route continues toward another meadow called Valles Seco. There's a stock pond at one end occupied this day by a pair of Canada geese. Once past the meadow, the road starts climbing a bit more steeply, and there is this warning that during high winds, the trees have a habit of shedding dead branches. Off to the left, there's this brief view of the Valles Caldera North Rim, where much of the volcanic activity originated. As the climb starts to ease, there's plenty of evidence of past crashing branches. Best to hike down the middle of the road where there's nothing overhead. Along the way, Redondo Mountain, the highest peak in the preserve, shows up for a minute. In volcano speak, it's a resurgent dome that formed less than 30,000 years ago. In 0.8 miles from that, the main road takes a sharp turn to the left where there's a not-so-visible split in the route that has apparently given a few people in the past some problems. Here's the part of the trip I've been a little nervous about. I'm at the junction of the Alamo Canyon Trail, which I want, and the Redondo border trails going off to the left. I'm leaning heavily on my GPS, but there are also some physical signs to look for. There's this post, which has probably been here forever. There's this small clearing and a little bit of a berm to go over. And off to the right, look over the berm and downhill a little bit and you'll see this post. That's another sign. And someone has left this arrow. And then the last bit of advice is don't succumb to any temptation to go downhill. Traverse the slope, staying level as much as you can. There's actually a bit of a path here, and we'll see if we follow it, and it takes us where we want to go. Ooh, that's scary. The trail, though covered in grass, is fairly defined as it follows the slope, occasionally dipping down, but staying high above Alamo Canyon. By the way, that's an elk bellowing. It's rutting season for them. Oh, all that anxiety for nothing. This is such a lovely trail. I don't know how anybody could get lost on it. Wow. Just amazing. I'm glad I didn't bypass this. The Jeep road I'm on does occasionally turn grassy, which I understand can obscure it in the spring and early summer. especially after heavy rains. For the most part, I'm having no trouble following it this September day. Eventually, I descend into Alamo Canyon and, after 8.6 miles, reach the first of 3 ponds. Less than a half a mile from that, this nasty pool shows up. It's more of a sulfur cauldron with fumaroles blowing out gases into the water. Now, all this volcanic burping started with 2 eruptions 1.6 to 1.25 million years ago, which created Valles Caldera. Now, it's not considered a supervolcano, although it did spew 100 times more material than Mount St. Helens. It's also considered to be dormant, but not extinct, with magma 4.5 miles below the surface. The trail passes this remnant of the geothermal drilling days and then goes by one more pond before coming to a prairie dog colony. Not far from here, the route hooks back up with the road I was on this morning and continues downhill. Eventually, I reach the gate where I started more than 12 miles ago. That was a good hike.